actually help kids cheat at school. Joining us now to discuss on the KVI studio line is Jennifer Kabbany from the College Fix. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Anytime.
So tell us what you guys found out about all this, because it seems like it would be more of a college problem.
It is a problem. It's an emerging and big problem, and professors are trying to scramble to figure out how to handle this. But students are earning A's on their tests and even on their essays with this Chat GPT artificial intelligence. So they just type in a prompt, bada bing, bada boom, their essay's done. And what professors are telling us is sometimes it's not easy to discern whether it was AI or not.
So I know there are programs that search for plagiarism and can say, oh, you cribbed this from that. You're telling me the AI isn't quoting direct sources?
Well, what's unique about the AI and what's causing such a problem is that you give it a user, a student, a person gives it a unique prompt, and then it spits out a unique answer specifically to your prompt. So it's never going to give the same answer twice. And that's why it's going to cause problems for these plagiarism programs.
Gotcha. I just assumed that if it was saying something like you ask it, oh, I don't know, give me the history of the Roman Empire, it's going to cite some sources along the way.
But the way it phrases it is conversational, and it almost sounds like it could be a student just writing a report in their own conversational tone. So the fact that this is really helping cheating, and not just that, but it gives instant answers to multiple choice questions, instant answers to true and false questions. So students that are distance learning, online learning, I mean, the cheating is a huge problem under this emerging AI technology, and eventually we might catch up and find ways to proctor exams or help stem the tide. But right now it's like the wild, wild west.
Well, for me, it would be really, really simple if I was a teacher. Go back to the old way they used to do it in the math textbooks. In the math textbooks in my day, it used to have every other answer. It had all the odd ones or all the even ones, whatever the case may be. And on a lot of them, it would say see graph below, but there'd be no graph. Actually, I had a friend who got in trouble for writing an answer, see graph below, and there was no graph, obviously cribbed it out of the book. So if there's no sources cited, then the kid definitely got it from AI. Isn't that at least one indicator?
Well, I think there are ways to use tricks and traps to catch the students. If there's no sources, that's one. But I believe the ChatGPT does have the capability of adding sources or applying sources to some of the essays that they write. They certainly are capable of distinguishing conservative from liberal ideas, because we've had students and other professors test out ChatGPT, and the AI won't respond with conservative answers or conservative commentary. For example, one student asked it to write a poem admiring Trump, and it refused. It said, "Oh, I can't write a poem admiring a political figure. I'm impartial." But then she asked it to write a poem honoring Biden, and he had like 5 stanzas out in a heartbeat. So, and then another professor up in Washington, had asked it to defend fossil fuel use, and it flat out refused. So not only is it making students dumber by allowing them to cheat easier, but then it's also giving them only liberal responses.
Well, I guess the advantage of that is if they're not reading it anyway and they're just turning it in, they're not getting indoctrinated by it because they don't even know what it says.
I suppose that's the silver lining, yes.
It's just a little bit there. I mean, I'm not surprised by this. Somebody programs the AI. The AI does not program itself. We've seen bias not just in politics, but with regards to, for example, the Middle East conflict. Whoever programs that thing is giving it anti-Israel answers from time to time. You're seeing a lot of that kind of stuff. This seems to be a growing problem. For me, the bigger concern for me, and I look at this with my own kids, is that my kids will come up to me and say, "Dad, how do I do this?" I'm like, you have the knowledge of the universe at your fingertips and that electronic thing you're glued to. Ask the thing. It'll show you how. I mean, I love helping my kids out, but it seems like kids are just getting dumber because they're losing the practical research skills, the practical skills of how to figure out how to do things. And it's becoming the vast minority of kids who say, well, I'm going to use YouTube to learn how to become a mechanic. I'm going to use YouTube to learn how to do this. It seems like it's less and less of that these days.
There's a recent massive IQ study that found that young people are actually getting dumber. Like they're the stupidest generation we've had in quite some time. It's a real problem that we're facing. So you're not wrong in seeing that trend. And unfortunately, we think that infusing DEI and critical race theory is what's going to, solve our schools and make them better. But in fact, nothing is getting better. Everything is getting worse. We keep throwing money at the problem. Our kids are getting dumber. Meanwhile, now ChatGPT is answering everybody's questions for them. So it's a perfect storm of trouble.
In the last few minutes we have with Jenn Kabbany from the College Fix, I'm looking at this crazy story that you guys had about UVA where they hired Liz Cheney as a professor of politics. I got no problem with that. But the fact that they called her a strong conservative, try to figure out how that is. Forget the Trump stuff for a second. She was never a strong conservative.
I honestly wonder if liberals actually consider her a strong conservative. I mean, because they think anybody right of her is, a racist, bigot, homophobe, add all the isms or whatever. So in their mind, maybe they're being honest and sincere and holding her up as a true strong conservative. But yeah, to you and I and liberty-minded, principled constitutionalist, she's far, far from it. And in fact, that was a punchline.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts that they said, oh, this is our strict conservative person. It reminds me of George W. Bush. So while he was in office, he was the devil incarnate. They compared him to Hitler, you name it, everything about him. But then the second he's not in office anymore, they have him on The View. They have him on all the talk shows. They talk about how great he is. They have him on to discuss his book. It just seems to me like once you're out of office, they're more than happy to talk to you. They just don't want to have to deal with you while you're in office.
Well, you remember now the University of Chicago hired Beto O'Rourke, and Harvard hired Brian Stelter. So, I mean, it's like after you fail in your career, you go to the colleges to teach. That's basically the liberal pathway.
Yeah, and it seems like it actually gives the good teachers out there who have all the right reasons for doing everything just a bad rap because they get stuck with that whole moniker of those who can't teach. And unfortunately, there's a lot of great teachers out there, and there's some people who enjoy teaching and do it along with their careers. Unfortunately, people like Liz Cheney just give it a bad name. Jenn Kabbany from the College Fix, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Great to talk to you.
Second